What is up, T.O.Gs? This is a new look here. Lately, I have not been pleased with the battery life of the Hero session that we've had placed here on the handlebars, so we're taking advantage of the fact that we have two Hero 5 Blacks, and I'm gonna have to get used to this, being able to see this larger camera here. I mean, really, it's not that much larger, but it just, the size of it is throwing me off, mostly because I feel like it's too close. But we checked the view. I'm gonna run this, and everything looks good, so hopefully it looks good to you. Oh, the poor sunflowers, they're so droopy. I have not posted one of these videos in a while, and for any of you who love the Let's Talk, that one guy relationship friendly advice segments, I apologize. I haven't forgot about all of you, because there's dozens of you I know that watch it every time. But you know, seriously though, even with the understanding that my Let's Talk videos don't get all that many views, it's an important topic for me, and I know for those of you who watch it, it's definitely important to you. Otherwise, you know, why would you take the time to listen to a guy riding a motorcycle talk about relationship advice? But just as much as this is for you, this is for me as well. We are coming up on my 18th anniversary with me and that one gal, my wife. And we've been happily married and happily together for almost a quarter of a century. How about that? With all those years of experience, we have a treasure trove of helpful hints for maybe young married couples, maybe for those of you couples maybe who are going through a rough patch and are looking for a little bit of advice. Maybe I'd like to take the time to share what's worked for us, and hopefully it can help some of you out there who are in a relationship. And I like to say that these tips don't just work for, you know, for romantic relationships. They also, I feel like they can apply as well to your friendships. So with that said, let's just jump right into what I wanted to talk about today, which is assumptions. Now, there's a quote: when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Now, I'm sure that you've heard this quote before, and if you haven't, there you go, there's something new for you. But one of the most important things in any relationship is that you do not assume, do not make assumptions in a relationship. It can really drive a wedge between yourself and your significant other, or yourself and your best friend, when you make assumptions, when you assume things. Now, what I'm talking about is you don't ever want to assume in a relationship that you know what the other person is thinking. I don't care how long you've known each other, how long you've been together, how well you think you know each other, how much you love each other. All of these things do not carry any bearing as far as knowing what the other person is thinking. Now, granted, when you're together with someone for a long time, you do have a lot of those moments where you know what the other person is thinking because you've been together, because you've had so many experiences together. You can kind of telegraph what that person wants, what that person is thinking. But here's the thing, we are people, we're not machines, you know, we're not animals. We are complex creatures as humans, and even though we might know what the other person is thinking at times, and it might be a lot of the times you might know what your significant other is thinking, but you cannot let your assumptions lead to a lack of communication. When you just assume all the time what the other person is thinking, it can turn into a terrible, terrible habit where you stop talking, where you stop communicating, we're constantly changing. Even though we might spend most of our lives together with somebody, there's a lot of time that we spend away from them as well. Especially, I mean, if you work together, it's one thing, but I'm guessing that a lot of you spend at least 8 to 10 hours a day away from each other. And believe it or not, that 8 or 10 hours away from each other can be shaping someone much differently than what you may think or what your partner may think. So I'm having trouble putting this into words, mostly because I'm guilty as anyone else when it comes to making assumptions about my significant other. My wife and I, like I said, have been together for so long that there was definitely a point where when I finally sat down and had a frank discussion with my wife, and without getting into too much detail or sharing too much about myself personally, it was a deep philosophical discussion, and we put all of the assumptions aside and we just had a frank talk with each other. And I found out that there were a lot of things that I assumed about my wife that I didn't know. And it was kind of, frankly, it was kind of scary, because here I am and here I was thinking that I knew my wife so well and that I knew so much about my wife, and I do know so much about my wife, and at the time I did know, I thought I knew all that there was to know about her. And after that discussion, I found out that there was just a lot that I didn't know, and it was because I assumed that I just kind of let it go, and I let it be for way too long. Now, there's a happy ending to this story, because after this discussion, my wife and I felt like things were a lot more open. There were things that I felt like maybe I couldn't talk to my wife about, because maybe I thought that they might offend her. But after having that discussion and after stopping all the assumptions and just getting it out there, I was able to find out that there was a lot that I could talk to my wife about that maybe I thought that I couldn't talk with her about before. And I know I'm beating a lot around the bush, and mostly it's because even though I love all of you guys watching the channel, there's some things that in my life that I'm going to and that I want to keep private, and I'm going to keep private. So hopefully you get the gist of it, and hopefully you understand that making assumptions in a relationship can become a really divisive and create a big wedge in between yourself and the person that you love and the people that you love. So my advice to you after all of that is, don't assume. Don't make an ass out of you and me. Make sure in your relationships that you talk it out. Talk it out, because you might find not only that there's a lot of stuff that you don't know about your significant other, it could be some really pleasant surprises. Some things that you thought you knew about your significant other that you didn't know. So take my advice, leave the assumptions aside, and have open dialogue and open conversations. Alright guys, but that's all I've got for you on this topic. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and if you did, you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Guys, if you're out there riding, be safe, and if you're not riding, get riding. I'm that one guy, and I am out.